Ian, thank you very much indeed. On the day Judy rang me to tell me that her beloved Kevin had left us, I posted a message. It was a day logic determined would eventually happen. Any day was, of course, too soon. My words did not come easily, and yet in many ways they did. I simply wrote, "Lost for words. They will come. Goodbye, my friend." The rawness of the day demanded no more. In truth, like many of you, I couldn't find more. Hindsight, as Kevin would regularly remind us, is always easy. I was genuinely lost for words. They will come? Well, only now are they beginning to flow. There is, though, an adjustment in hindsight I would make to those words today. It will never be goodbye. Not that day, not someday soon. I doubt in any of the days of those of us privileged enough to have known Kevin and to be here today. We all have our own beliefs, spirituality, if you like. I've never been certain about what life beyond our years on earth looks like. That's for all of us to ponder, perhaps not for today. But what I do know is that Kevin has left unerasable, indelible memories etched on all of us who spent time with him. This is a day that Kevin probably and privately dreaded, and for all humanly recognizable reasons. But being centre stage here at the MCG and not giving us a speech on a day of speeches would have stretched every sinew beyond all reasonable elasticity. Had he been here today, he would have nonchalantly got to his feet, gripped the table, and looked down for a moment. He had theatrical timing. Grabbed the room and spoken without notes. Eloquent, at ease, off the cuff, self-deprecating in parts, not too many. And a speech he was always going to make and one he'd rehearsed 30 times today. I can't be sure that I've captured it with total authenticity, but let me, if I may, share a few of the opening sentences. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, thank you for giving me the opportunity to say just a few words. At this point, you knew it was going to be even longer than he knew. I'm so happy to be surrounded by so many from so many parts of my life, but it is my family that has shared, shaped, and been there for all of them. Judy, who I've loved unreservedly, has been a permanence that few partners will ever experience. Laughed at all the same stories at too many lunches, dinners, conferences, and capitals of the world to remember, and will laugh today at all the right points. Put up with the long absences that were the consequence of jobs I'd paid and unpaid I'd taken on. I only hope she knows how much I hated those times away and the quiet, unflinching reassurance and love through good and tough times that is her hallmark. Why do I think he would have opened like that? Well, anybody that knew Kevin, spent even modest amounts of time with him, knows that family and his place in it mattered more than anything else. More than anything achieved as an Olympic athlete, as a corporate titan, or his half-century in the upper echelons of global sports governance. But if I may, I will return to family in my concluding remarks. Not long before Kevin left us, and a few days before his 90th birthday, we enjoyed a glass of wine over lunch in one of his favorite restaurants in Noosa. It is the cherished photo I posted together with my few faltering words on the day he passed. We talked about so many things over the days we spent together. Of his extraordinary athletic achievements, Olympic and Commonwealth medals, records broken domestically and overseas as a student at Michigan State University, the first non-American to win an NCAA title. No mean achievement in a nation described as the world's 400-meter factory. That was in the late 50s, and a world he had long since left. I didn't meet Kevan for another 30 or so years. His athletics exploits well behind him, his ascent through the International Olympic Committee and other sports organizations rapid and purposeful, and at a sweet spot and peak of a pristine corporate career. All handed to him on a plate. Spend any time with this man and you would soon recognize nothing could be further from the truth. In understanding that, you were also handed a masterclass about focus and the navigable path through and from adversity and crisis. His family sold the piano to raise his airfare to Michigan, and he grafted in coking ovens. The masterclass extended into the skill and criticality of listening and absorbing. Around him, and because of that, he became a magnet for smart and balanced people. His mind was permanently open to the wonder of the world around him. Kevan never apologized for being clever, a cleverness that surfaced in his early years at school, but a cleverness that never assumed there was nothing else to explore. As it happened, sadly for me, my time with him late last year proved to be the last few days of our 40-year friendship. And here I choose my words carefully, but nonetheless smile at the absurdity of aligning age and cognitive power and productive contribution and service. There are 90-year-olds I learn something from every day, often lending a lens into an alternate construct, a different view of the world. Kevan was one of them. Opposite me at lunch on that life-enhancing day was a 90-year-old who woke up each morning knowing with a freshness that the world was still a huge classroom where knowledge and understanding tantalizingly remained unearthed. We both shared a passion for history, particularly American, and politics. It wasn't his best-kept secret. Spend only a few minutes in his book-lined study, and the evidence unmasked sat before you. Actually, it sat in alphabetical order, color-coded, and in perfect height and symmetry. Judy, I'm guessing he was a little OCD. A couple of years ago, we challenged each other to triage the seminal moments of the 20th century. The competitor in him, of course, encouraged me to go first. Always size up the opposition under stress, he said. I settled upon the fall of the Berlin Wall and the freeing of 300 million people from the tyrannical yoke of Soviet command and control, and the commensurate impact and shaping of today's world, evidenced, I argued, in the Olympic world. I met a few of the players that sat at the center of that particular global shift. My case made, I waited for Kevan. After a few moments, he cited the release of Nelson Mandela from 27 years of inhuman incarceration on Robben Island. Slowly, painstakingly, and with perfect recall of names, dates, and places, he presented his case. Not for him an exposition curated and distilled from the observations and experiences of others. No, for Kevan, this was much more than a dry treatise. It soon became apparent that in his role as vice president of the IOC, he had sat at the center of a monumental piece of 20th century history, the remediation of the scarring system of apartheid that pervaded South African society and particularly its sport. He spoke of Le Carré-esque in-camera meetings with South Africa's leaders, the deft navigation of deep-seated enmities and distrust, and a clandestine meeting with Mandela himself in a hut alongside a small airstrip, Nelspruit, where it was agreed that the time was right for the return of South Africa to the Olympic fold following so many years of isolation. Both men were to become close friends. I sense that this was his proudest achievement, and not simply because he was tasked with a mission from HQ in Lausanne, which he successfully landed, with the full recognition of the role of others, but because Kevan had an innate sense of the pernicious, precarious world of the underdog. He started life as one, and an innate, unshakable sense of justice that he held hard to throughout his life. I could cite other examples, the mediating role he played in the challenges posed by the conflict in East Timor before the Sydney Games, North and South Korean tensions, Russia of late, and his steadfast commitment to free speech as chair of the IOC's press commission during the Beijing Games, a belief so strongly held that had he not prevailed, he would have walked away from his prestigious role. Kevan was a shaper, not a bystander. It is to family I return, as I said I would. I hope I don't need to tell the Gosper children here today just how proud of you he was. Not just in what you've done, but what you have become, which for your father was everything. Any opening exchange with him was always a running commentary of you and your world. But if I may, I think he achieved something else that was very precious. From tragedy, he melded two families that became seamless. And Judy, don't underestimate your role. He didn't, because he was forever telling me. He loved and adored you. He told me that too. I'm hoping I may crave, for a few concluding moments, a little self-indulgence. I can't remember a time in the last 40-plus years where Kevan has not been there for me at all my crossroads, personal and professional. Steady under fire, measured and unflinchingly loyal. There is not an hour past that I don't miss him. Shortly after Kevan died, I rang Brett. I told him I felt I'd lost a father. How do you think I feel, he said. I thought about that a lot since our exchange. Dean, Brett, Sophie and Richard, I really do.